be doing the DXC Q&A now. Proceed.
Rain, you have to me about Fiona. That is all.
The Fiona question. Fiona is like a super ancient design. 2019 to 2022. No,
I
2019 to
think like
2020. I think that's when like Fiona became a thing.
I think she was even before that.
No,
I believe.
I'm pretty sure because that's when I started Twitter. On Twitter, and
Yeah.
it was like around the time I started on Twitter. So I can actually check this. Yeah, it was 2019. So it'll be around that time when like Fiona's design kind of came into fruition. She hasn't really changed much. Her story has changed because back then there wasn't like the Franks.
Yeah,
The
like a.
Frankish Civil War didn't exist back then. None of that existed back then. If you remember, because
Mm,
you would remember this, but she was actually part of the city of Alantropa. Alantropa
yeah,
didn't.
like if
Go
Alan
go.
Chose like the main focus, really, the
Was
entire
the main
world, wasn't it?
focus, yeah. Alantropa didn't
Yeah.
even have a name back then. It was just the city
Yeah.
back then. It
And
didn't even have a
to be
name.
fair, too, if I remember the illustration, there was also the introduction with the early like iteration of like the angles essentially as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. That'll
Um,
get to like the Angles design, and well, they're very blame
yeah,
inspired. They've become more fleshy now, but
yeah, they kind of
yeah,
get a
they're very
more their own
inspired.
thing
But
now.
speaking of like the anime influences, Fiona was influenced by like I forget what the anime called. It was like what was it called? Like Recreator, I think. I don't know if you know that one or if you've seen
I
anything
do
about
not
that.
know.
Yeah. But like if you ever look it up and if you ever see her, it's like yeah,
Like
especially with
this,
the original design, you could see like oh yeah, she's pretty inspired
yeah,
by that.
like
She's pretty
here's
good.
her design though. Like, the only thing that's really changed about her is her hat. Essentially, anything else has been pretty much the same since then.
Some of the color choices, I think I've removed the gold completely. She has no more
Yeah,
gold on her; it's all just silver. And her hair color became a different color. I remember
yeah,
like
like
that wasn't my choice though. I remember that was like a Lily colored the original drawing way back when.
yeah,
Lily picked that color for the hair instead,
yeah, and just
and that
stuck.
stuck. Yeah, and it stuck. So I think even the color scheme. I think that was actually Lily's thing. I think
Yeah.
because I wasn't coloring my stuff back then. I do color it now though, so all the coloring is me. Just to clarify, it is actually me coloring.
No
Um,
longer lazy.
yeah, I'm not being lazy about it. I'm actually coloring it. But yeah, like on the topic of Fiona, I guess like the story and everything. Yeah, like I've always liked Fiona's design. They said she's an OG. She's super old at this point.
Yeah.
And she just kind of like fit in pretty well in the role of the Sword Saint, this like Joan of Arc figure for the Frankish Republic during its time of crisis with the Mithric Empire and all that stuff. She's just kind of naturally fit there, and ever since then, that's where her story is at. What will her story hold for the future? At the moment, I can't really say. I do have some plans and some ideas, but I can't really discuss that. But big things in the future, and Fiona will be getting more drawings in the near future, most likely. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Next guy up is Southfield Border. Here, this was a bit long. I'd love to know about Mithra. It seems like this guy has been around for a while, as Tel Nos started an empire dedicated to Mithraism. Before Vasir made it his region's religion, his opposition to Skull fascinates me. You know, the Vornate was started by an entity called Husk, who apparently destroyed the moon, like the apocalyptic wolf Hati in Norse mythology, the brother of Skull, who leads the sun. Are Mithra, Skull, and Husk related in some way?
Yes, they are related in the sense they're opposing forces, kind of what's being described here. But they're not like super related. Like it's not like
But like opposing concepts from each
they're
other.
opposing concepts like thematically, right? It's not as intertwined as it might seem at first. I guess to go into like a bit of the backstory that I I have it written somewhere. But to go into the backstory about it, like the sword skull was sent down to you basically put down the Mithraics by the entity on the moon, who isn't related to Husk. He is someone else completely different. He's completely different, completely independent from that. But he sent down the sword to basically stir some chaos down there because the Mithraians were getting a bit too uppity. They were really, taking over the world there, and that just wouldn't stand. And so that's how we got Skull. It ended up in the hands of Nos, and he definitely brought the hammer down on the Mithraians. So the
But then he
cost.
like,
Oh, yeah,
oh,
go on.
I was gonna say like he then threw down the second sword. Essentially, it's also like kind of even out the chaos, so it's not just completely lopsided from a gathering.
Oh
And
yeah, the Haughty. Yeah, the Haughty is also running around there. The the Gothram guy has it. The Gothram king has the haughty sword. But I guess like Mithraea, like overarching concept of Mithraea in the setting. Um, I guess like I'm pulling a little bit for Gnosticism here, but the Demiurge has its like archons, and conceptually, the Mithraea would be one of the archons, one of these like dark entities or these prison wardens that the Demiurge uses to control humanity. That's a concept that's very out there, and it's still not entirely fleshed out. At least not to the extent where it's like, oh yeah, that's super concrete. That's the actual thing that's going on here. But Maitreya, not a good dude. Probably aligned with the Demiurge. And one day we'll get into the Demiurge, and that'll be fun. But for right now, yeah, Maitreya, not good. I don't know if you
Actually,
have any like tidbits that
uh,
of stuff that I've forgotten that I might have told you in the past.
a lot that I would say probably say it now because I might be spoilers, but I guess when you start the Archons, at least, but again, think of almost like Archangels, but a lot more. They range from like being gray in morality to being our evil,
I
essentially. Like,
always thought that was the concept of the Archons, at least in
yeah,
Gnosticism. I always thought that was the concept.
they're basically rather an Archangel is pure good, and Archons like the inverse of that almost.
Yeah,
Really.
like I always thought. Granted, I haven't like brushed up on my Gnosticism in a long time, so maybe I'll have to go back and do that. But I always thought that was like the inherent concept there. It was like they were supposed to parallel the archangels. In
Like, at
Gnosticism, I
least a
believe there's
similar.
also the concept of like the aeons, or something like that, which were like
Yeah.
the opposing side of it too. But again, like I said, I haven't brushed up on it in a long time, so it's something to do, something I'll have to do down the line there. Unless I forgot any other details or anything else that
Um.
you might have remembered when it concerns
Oh, I,
Maitreya and Mithraism.
I'll say the thing about Maitreya will be the Mithra crowns, given that's like a reoccurring thing that does pop up, right? And
Ah,
essentially,
well, you
the
bring
sign
it up
element
as
that does.
recurring, but I don't think it's actually been mentioned anywhere.
But
That's something that you know because I've told,
that is true. Like, but it's
but
the
the
thing that
folks
is,
don't
if you
know.
look at characters, like if you know, it's like the little like sort of like cross symbol in some characters'
Well,
helmets.
they have like
It's
emblems, little like badges on their helmets. Yeah, that's a Mithraic crown. They get that from killing a Mithraic champion. Again, it's not something that I've really talked about. But yeah, that is, I guess that is a little tidbit, but it's not something that folks would have been aware of until
like
now.
it's more thing you can predominantly see on the vampires, especially the older ones, when
Oh
there's a
yeah,
lot more of those champions around the time.
yeah, like if
Eh,
you look at Nos, you look at Estragon, you look at Ulrich, Maria when she has her armor on, she has the crest on her head. Yeah, those characters have it. But yeah,
yeah, like even Wilhelm has one as well, if I remember right. He has one on his helmet.
yeah, of course Wilhelm has it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like he likely has a few champions under his belt. Belt really.
yeah, he does, he does. But okay, let's move on to another one.
Next one is from Launch 2000. Unless I missed this one, it was
Lodge.
going to be cool to showcase more how chords and mechas in general operate in the universe. The best I can remember are wet drives for the UN machines. And
Ah, the chords. How do they actually function? That is a great question, and definitely one that I should write more about, and I should get more into. It's kind of showing my hand here, where it's like, oh, that's a cool concept. I like that. I'll incorporate it. But do I actually know how it works? Maybe not initially, but I could come up with something. You know.
I always assume the way the chords work is it doesn't let the pipe directly 100% control the machine. It's more like it lets them interface with the machine and kind of like get a better understanding of how it works. Really.
No, it is a full-on interface because I
Ah,
remember like in the older lore, the older stuff. Like again, I have to brush up on it and see what I can do with it. But in older stuff, it's always like it's stated pretty clear that the pilot becomes one with the machine, and then they become like they start to feel it. They're like, oh,
yeah,
I hit my arm, I hit my real arm. They get the feeling. So it is a
yeah,
direct link. It's very deliberate because you gotta remember like the chords, they're biological as well.
yeah. It's like
They have
directly connects to the nervous system, essentially.
well, no, it's because it has like the Nephilim spine in it.
Yeah.
That's what the spinal system is. That's what it's called a cord because it's a spinal cord. Um, and that gives the mech the structure. So it's almost like the pilot becomes the operating system, the brain, the
Yeah.
computer for it. Pilot
Yeah.
becomes and takes up that role, what gives them like a wider degree of motion and sensory feedback and all that type of stuff. Like when it
Like
comes to like the actual like mechanics of it, though,
Mhm.
Like that's something that I'll have to look into and think about because like right now, at least the way I have it written in, they're basically nuclear powered, miniaturized nuclear reactors. That's the way they run off. That's the way they work off. But like
Like,
any hard like mechanical stuff, like that's something that I'll have to look into and I'll have to like do a little bit of research on to have a more, I guess like fleshed out idea. Because like right now, if someone was asking me to make a manual for them, yeah, I'd struggle. I'd have to do a lot of research on my end. But that is how they operate. That's how they roll.
I guess like the short of it, best way to describe how they work. To say is think of how like the Titans or the Knights work in Warhammer 40k. It's like a similar sort of idea, but the pilot is directly connected to the machine. I mean,
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I wouldn't put it like that. I think like the best way of thinking about it instead is like I don't know, Gundam Iron Blooded Orphans. They have like this system. I forget what it's called. The Varjana system, something like that, where it's literally like an implant in the back of the spine. The pilots go through. That
yeah,
way they can connect to the machine and they can get the direct like feedback and all that type of stuff. So I think like for a simpler analogy, just look up Iron Blooded Orphans. Uh, that's my recommendation.
next one's from Saber. Here, I don't mind learning more about the Divine Worms. So designs really stuck in my head. Also, more of a fun question: what's the wildest piece of artillery used in the setting? And
The wildest piece of artillery used in the setting. That's gonna be the lunar railgun, which might not be like the correct naming for it, but like it's like the rods of God. Is that what it's called again?
yeah, like Rods of Odin,
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
forgot what they're called.
Yeah, yeah. Seen in Call of Duty Ghost. Would that be artillery or would that be more like bombardment? I don't know. But it's a big gun, shoots a big rod down into Earth, blows up a lot of stuff. It's really cool. It's very, very cool. As to the divine worms, that's also like a really old concept. That one predates a lot of stuff. That's like back in 2016, 2017. They're
Yeah,
ancient. I was drawing these things back in high school, long
like
time
that's big
ago.
around the time. Like I think even Crossy was around. At least I remember like he was around. Like drawings of them were
Yeah,
existing.
yeah. Like I think Crosstale is a little bit, just a tad bit older. I think they predate them for just a little bit, not too much, but they do predate. They started off as like a fully invasive parasitic entity. The original ones were, and I think you can still see it in these ones. They're very inspired by the Phyraxians from
Yeah, like the
Magic the Gathering.
yeah with the white like
The
sort of like
white,
organic armor they
yeah,
have.
white, well, the white mana ones, those guys, very inspired by the Phyraxians. I hope that I've managed to kind of steer them away from being just a 100% ripoff. I think I have. So, 'cause I don't think many people actually think about the Phyraxians when they see the Divine Worms. At least I don't
Uh,
think so. But now they
It
will.
helps too because they have like the red cloth and also like all the gold jewelry. The more like
Well,
holy sort of look they have.
that's what the
Yeah,
Phyraxians of the white mana are. That's what they have. You never seen
no,
them?
is it not a while. With the way they look, they have much more like a paladin look now. Like especially the main generic one looks more like a paladin sort of character.
Well,
That makes
yeah,
sense.
but the problem is like again the Phyraxians, like yeah, that's what they
Uh,
are. They're holy mana. A lot of them have like the white, red, and gold motifs. So, and I don't think that's like the best distinguishing factor about them. But regardless, I hope I've done a good enough job in distinguishing them. I guess an actual like story beats like lore stuff. When it comes to their designs, and I guess they're like the background fluff for them. What I want to do is I want to take like just like animals and things that are like usually we don't like I guess they're not really thought about when it comes to like theological matters, like, oh, where do animals go when they die? Well, that's what the worms are here to answer. They're dead animals. They've
and
become ghosts, angels of animals. That's what they've become. They're also going to be embodying concepts as well. They'll have a whole spectrum of it. They're fun though. It's fun to write about them because it's like,
it's
yeah,
also
this is nice.
to expand the religious aspect as well too. Is just us, they're angels. Those is that with the old like concept like the firmament, right? And how beyond Earth is essentially an ocean, and which does kind of have more like aquatic themes
Oh
as
yeah, that's
well.
something that has stuck around. Yeah. The
Hmm.
aquatic motif. It started off with like frilled sharks.
Yeah.
Back when I
Yeah.
was doing like I think it was like old drawings of Husk, if Funnily enough, that guy comes back. He
Yeah, like
had like a frill shark motif.
he looks like an almost like a desiccated like one
Yeah.
essentially.
The motif
Mm.
was like a frill shark. Yeah. We probably won't be seeing them in like the main timeline or the main like branch of it. We won't be seeing them there, but we will be seeing them a lot in the American Millennium. So we have that to look forward to.
To
That'll be
be
fun.
fair, so like there's one I do remember he's an older character where he is in the main timeline, but he's like the only one there essentially.
We
If I
can
remember.
assume again if for that type of stuff, it's like, is that really something I'm gonna still use? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not, because that complicates stuff, or at least it complicates
That
anyone mind. So, nah, probably not gonna,
yeah.
probably not gonna be using that. But, but yeah, we'll be seeing them in American Millennium related stuff.
Yeah, that's more their thing. That's
Yeah,
more
that'll be
their.
like more
Yes.
like little story that'll be included in. But yeah, like, let's throw me another one.
Next one's from Cass. Spirit of the Isle of Angels seems interesting. It'll be cool to learn more about her.
Nah, they're talking about Queen Victoria Eternal, the
Uh,
spirit of the islands of the angels, or the Isles of the angels. Yeah, like she's cool. She's cool. So when it came to like the set for them for like the Anglican Civil War, the little like background plot, which again, I am kicking myself. I do kick myself about this because like I didn't do this for them. This was before I started doing like little timeline thingies. But now I'll probably go back to it and include this. But the little like story about it is that King Charles of this timeline, he basically has a sick daughter, this little girl that gets sick, and then you have Archbishop, shoot, what was his name? Lodric? I think it was Archbishop Lodric. Let me just quickly have a look though.
but you just one that's basically a lunatic,
He was the
essentially.
lunatic guy, the heretic one. He came to him. He was like, "Hey, you Archbishop, Archbishop Lodric, I need you to help me save my daughter." And Lodric is like, "Yeah, I can do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. But you have to make me the head of the Anglican Church, though." And he was like, okay, I guess so. I'm already unpopular. People already hate me. Who cares? People are gonna hate me more now. And yeah,
Basically, kind
people
of
hated him more.
compared to almost like a Rasputin situation.
Yeah,
Essentially.
it's very Rasputin like. Yeah, that is true. He does like resurrect her, or like he does cure her, but it's through apotheosis, which is a reoccurring thing that's going to happen in the story. You have the Frankish Civil War story that's kind of happening there too with Vasar.
He will essentially ascend to some form of godhood or
Yeah,
divinity
yeah,
in
transcending
some
into
way.
divinity, yeah. And that's what he does. He does accomplish this, and he's like, okay, I have this apotheosis, entity, and he thought he could control her, but it didn't work out for him. She had her own will, and she was like, nah, I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna be, I'm not gonna bend the knee to you, Lodric. And Lodric was like, damn, and he gets smited. Well, there's probably going to be a little bit more to Lodric's story there, but
It
yeah,
didn't go the way he wanted.
it doesn't end. It doesn't end well for Lodric. It's basically the best way
But
of putting it. It just does not end well for him.
also, general theme about like also essentially divinity. It's also too. It tends to be sort of like a monkey's paw sort of thing as well too. That's been
Yeah,
recurrent things. Well, where
that,
it
yeah,
tends to
that does
not
happen.
go the way the character necessarily wants it to. Who really? So.
Yeah, like absolutely. Like you have again, a good example would be Husk.
Yeah, where
Uh,
he lost
he
everything
lost
with his.
everything, yeah. But I guess that'll be when we have to explain what like is going on with Husk and who Husk is, and what happened on the moon,
Yeah,
and what was
that's
all that type of stuff.
basically going to the whole like why it's in the way it is.
Yeah,
And
why is
it's
deciding the way it is? But that might be a question for later, and if not, that'll be a topic for another time.
yeah.
But yeah, it is a bit of a monkey's paw. That is true. But yeah, she's very benevolent. She's what ends the Anglican Civil War under her like jurisdiction, and she leads the Anglicans into their Anglican Empire phase. Kind of like in our real life, with the Great Revolution and all this type of
Yeah.
stuff that happened in England after the English Civil War. It's the same thing, same deal. Only this time they have an immortal queen that leads them all the way up to like 1920 something when she mysteriously passes on. Definitely not due to American interference. No, not at all. But she
Basically,
does
she
pass on.
passed on right around the time, like basically post World War One, at least when World War One should take place. Right around the time when monarchy stuff started to fall apart. Really.
Yeah, pretty much. Very convenient. Very convenient. Very convenient. Definitely not an American ploy. Um, But yeah, let's tackle another one.
Next one's Lancake Port. Who's the coolest guy or gal around, objectively speaking? And
That's easy. That's Wilhelm. Wilhelm has appeared in like some of the writing, and he has appeared in some images. He hasn't had a properly done new image in a while, but he will get one. I was planning on giving him one during the Vampire War thing, but I was like, man, um, right now it's not the time. I have to get the vampire stuff done. Wilhelm will
mm,
be an extra. Didn't get around to him, but he is the coolest guy. He is super badass. No one can beat him.
he,
He is OC Do Not Steal. He's like a combination of like cool stuff that I like. But
he's
yeah.
kind of a linchpin too, because he was there for a lot of
Oh
important
yeah, yeah.
events.
He was there during the moon when like a husk was made. He was there.
I think he's kind
Uh,
of the cause of it in a way,
he
in a
was the
sense.
cause of it. Yeah, but he was there. He was there in the past. I will actually. Well, he's there during the Icor story, which is like the world where everyone's like a weird looking like bioorganic freak. He's there for that. He's there during the obviously, as I said, during the past. He's there during the Vampire War. He's gonna be around for a lot of stuff. So
I
yeah,
bet for every major conflict, he's been involved in some way. Really,
not necessarily. I wouldn't say he's like in every one of them, but he's definitely around, and when he is around, he is important. Whenever Wilhelm isn't around, everyone else has to ask, "Where is he?
Mm,
What is he doing? What is he up to?" Nah,
whereas,
yeah,
and I guess the other thing too is that he is responsible for essentially abyssal magic, essentially in the sense
but
as well.
again, that's another topic that I
Yeah,
haven't
that's a
really talked about, but it is something. Um, yeah, he has a whole branch of his own magic. That's how cool he is. That's
yeah.
how awesome he is. That's just how much I glaze him. How amazing he is. The gal side of things. Yeah, that's an interesting question. Guess Fiona. I
Well,
think
Fiona's the
Fiona would
biased
fall.
one.
Well, Fiona's like the obvious one to go for.
Yeah,
But I do think Fiona's pretty cool. She has the sword and everything. She wants revenge. Her whole family got wiped out by the Mithraians, and her whole quest is for vengeance. And she's the ultimate fake it till you make it because she wasn't even supposed to be the Holy Sword Saint.
which ironically she ended up becoming the Sword Saint really because of that. Yeah, really.
Well, yeah, yeah, she embodied the aspects of like that nobility and the heroicness of it all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I hope that answers the question sufficiently. Wilhelm, strong Wilhelm, and a strong Fiona.
Uh,
Next one,
next,
please.
next one is Sean Riley. More on the French.
More on the French. Well, from the French in general, well, I guess we will be seeing more of the French going forward because everyone loves the French. Like legitimately, like, I think they're one of the most popular like themes. And I don't blame
They make
people for it. They look cool. They look very
they do, and
stylish.
also they have a lot of variety because you do have like Vasseurs guys. They're very fancy, almost like the more Napoleonic sort of look they have. Whereas you also have the Pan-State Legions, which are more like World War One to World War Two sort of French. And
Yeah, yeah, you have that. You have the variety within the factions, which is funny because obviously the Rylanders have like
mm,
different groups as well, but they haven't been showcased as much. And I
yeah,
think maybe the framing of like the Franks and how they're framed also helps them be interesting with like the whole Civil War aspect. You have the intrigue of Vasseur, as you said, the Penitent Legion, and you have the regular guys in the midst of all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, that's all fairly interesting stuff. We will be seeing more of them in the future. Obviously, I have more ideas to expand upon when it comes to like the main like Civil War stuff. But I also have stuff I want to do for them in the past, like the Napoleonic era. I want to do stuff for them there. I also want to do stuff for them during the height of the medieval times. Yeah, the Franks are gonna Franks are gonna be eating good. If you like the Franks, you eat good.
mm,
I guess for story beats and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know. I think the Franks are like they're very much like you see them and that's what you get. I don't think
yeah.
there's anything too like hidden about them or anything that's too like
They're very
hard to
upfront of
cover.
what they
Yeah, they're
do.
very upfront. I think they're like decently fleshed out when it comes to like kind of what they look like and kind of what they're about. I think they're
Yeah.
fairly easy to grasp. But again, one thing I can assure people is that there will be a lot more Franks in the future. So yeah, that something to look forward to. Let's move on to the next one.
Next one is Kojima. Not that one. Their ass back a clicker. Their, their, their question is: would love to hear more on the Baroque Empire. They're still one of my faves.
The Baroque. I like the Baroque. I remember. I think I don't know if it was you that told me, but I think someone told me it's like the Baroque have a funny name. I don't think it was you though. I think it was someone else. And I'm like, yeah, it's true. It's true. The Baroque do have a funny name, but I like it because they're weird and they're weirdos. I have
Mm,
plenty of ideas for them going on, like more like cybernetic like abominations. That's what
yeah.
I can foresee in the future for them. They're gonna lean in harder on like the Middle Eastern mix with the Kybertar type of stuff going on. They're gonna be very fun. It's another fun one. Another one that
I would
I
say
can
it's
see
like a
myself.
sub faction. The Kaiwatar especially describe them.
No, I wouldn't call them a sub faction because they have their own like they have their own goals and they have their own stuff
Yeah.
going on. They wouldn't be a sub faction. They're too big to be a sub faction too. Like they're definitely not that. Like they have the influence of it, but again, I think they stand on their own 2 feet. Yeah, don't disrespect them like that. That's not fair for them. But yeah, like they're fun because again, you're mixing like the Middle Eastern, like North African aesthetics with all this biomechanical horror stuff, and it's just cool. I've always had a soft spot for these guys here because again, they're just like they want to become dragons, and I think that's pretty cool. I think that's
But
pretty neat. I guess for like other like lore tidbits or like information about them, it's tough. It's tough to say at the moment because obviously we have the whole interregnum war happening. Hopefully, for the next time I touch upon them, I will feature them alongside another one of like the Ophidian successor states, since they will be fighting each other alongside the coalition of like other nations. So that we have that to look forward to. I don't know. Do you remember anything that I might be forgetting about the Baroque?
um, the other interest would be like, well, the Sandman. That's part of them, right?
Oh
How?
yeah, Sandman.
Yeah.
Sandman. Well, he is Kyber. He's the guy that's pulling the strings in a way.
Yeah, he's
He's
the
the guy
reason
that
why they
gives
started adopting more cybernetics, essentially.
ah
Eh,
kinda. But again, like don't they're not like puppets though. You gotta remember that they
Yeah,
have their own agenda. It's more like he's like selling them the stuff, right? It's
yeah, he's
he's doing
an
business
arms
with them.
dealer,
He is the
essentially.
arms dealer. Um, I think it would take away from them if they were just puppets to the Kyber. I don't
Yeah,
think that would make them as interesting. I like it more when they're like their own thing. Yeah, well, we'll definitely be seeing more of them in the future. I can also guarantee that. We'll be seeing more of a lot of stuff in the future. Then I'll be able to flesh things out a bit more. I think I think a lot of this stuff can be answered too by me just like making the compilation of all like the text
yeah,
files I
like
have and like releasing it so people can actually read on about these things and like
that's actually
concentrated
deals
form,
out
right?
with a follow up question where a symbol knockout Constantinople says, "Do you have a Tumblr or Master Post doc explain the lore?" Where I think they're just asking for that. Uh,
Well, yes and no. I do have a text document that has a lot of stuff copied into it at this point, but I don't think it's like that well done to like release it, if that makes sense. I don't think it looks that good, pretty much, is what I'm trying to say here. I think I'll have to go through it and refine it a little bit before I do, but I am planning on doing that. I am planning on doing that in the near future, because whatever like upcoming faction after like the vampires, I have been trying to focus on giving them like at least some detailed little timeline and like information bits. I've been going kind of hard on that because a lot of people ask about this stuff. So yeah, I hope I can provide that in the future, in the near future, hopefully. But yeah, like what will be the next one?
Next one's on Richard Timothy Himbawan. And he said, "Has Stranded Carcosa yet? Stranded Carcosa just exists and done nothing with it yet. Also, what's up with Scandinavia?" Uh,
Uh, these are two very neglected places in the world in the lore. Um, a lot of Asia hasn't been touched yet, and there's a lot of like really old information that is out there that probably isn't gonna stay the same. I do still want to keep the Lovecraftian flavor for China. I do want to make China very strange and Lovecraftian, because I think that'd be fun. I think we can do something really fun with that. You have Dreaded Carcosa being like the forbidden city of like
yeah,
China there, that'd be fun. but like I said, that stuff is really outdated, and I have to go over it, and I have to do my research. Because again, I want to treat it with the respect it deserves. And I want to make it interesting, and I want to make it cool. So when we do see it, hopefully it will live up to some expectations, and it'll be entertaining. Because
It
that's
will also
ultimately
be
what I achieve.
it will
But,
also be too like where the Mongols can get into like a proper story as well too, as
well, the
well.
Mongols will be getting into a proper story because I believe 100 years before the Vampire Wars, that's when the not Golden Horde invaded Europe.
Yeah,
And I am going to touch upon that time period because I guess this is going to tie into like the question about like other European states and stuff like that. Because like Eastern Europe is going to feature heavily there, like Poland is going to feature heavily during that storyline because they're going to be
mm,
facing off against the Magnolians, the Mongols. It's going to be fun. So that's something to look forward to in the future. As for Scandinavia, again, that's another sadly neglected part of the world. Uh,
from I remember, like there's at least we did one group drawing them where they essentially were arms dealers, essentially, or
no,
like they were.
I never did a
I,
group drawing of them.
I thought you did at least one of them. Like there was a cat bot drawing them, but I think that was like
That's not
ancient, really.
Scandinavia though. I think you're thinking of Switzerland.
No, yeah, I think I might be confusing that, really.
Yeah, that's not Scandinavia though. That is not Scandinavia. I haven't done anything with Scandinavia, to be honest. Scandinavia has been neglected, absolutely neglected. People interested in Scandinavia are starving. They got nothing to eat, nothing to eat. But yeah, I'll touch upon that in the future for sure. I'll probably like run it in a poll and see like what the people's interest is. I'll be like, okay, people, we got China and we got Scandinavia. I'll probably be more specific though about like the actual places
Yeah,
and the actual like factions and everything. But I'll leave it up to the people to decide of what they want to see in the future for those guys. Because again, both of them have been neglected. At least China, we kind of know what the theme is going to be about.
yeah, like
And
eldritch insects, stuff like that.
yeah, and
Yeah,
and if you go looking for it in some of the Magnolian ones, some of the Magnolian images, you can actually see some of the Chinese like soldier
yeah,
class.
yeah. I remember those.
Yeah, you can actually see them. So there is like a bit of stuff for them, but it's definitely woefully neglected and sadly neglected.
Well, like poor Scandinavia, which doesn't exist.
Yeah, Scandinavia at this point might not even exist. No, it does exist, but I gotta decide on what to do with Scandinavia. We will see. We will see in the future. But yes, let us move on to the next one.
Actually, like the previous thing about the Swiss, this person punished Temen. Suffering says, "Well, now I'm curious about the Swiss." Yes.
They're curious about the Swiss. The Swiss arms dealers. Yes, they are arms dealers. That's what they're still going to be that, and they're still going to be producing the finest automatons the world has seen. Like the cat bots, the Leo patterns, the wolf patterns, and all those guys, all those cool like mechs. They're still going to be producing them, and they're going to be producing some of the finest weapons in Europa. That is still going to be the case. I think the only thing they're gonna need is like a refresh of some of the older drawings, like basically another character sheet. They're just gonna need to refresh them.
Yeah,
But I think the premise of them is gonna stay exactly the same. I'm not gonna change anything about them. They're still
but
gonna stay
they're
independent
a
as they are.
neutral nation that
Yeah,
just
they're
sells
entirely neutral in
automatons
that
and
sense.
guns.
Yeah,
Essentially.
yeah, and the Americans are very interested in because this is okay. There might be a point that I'll change, but one of the points that I do remember adding to them was that yeah, they were one of those nations that did have some of the pre-Vulnerate history, some of the history
Yeah,
before the moon got shattered. So that might stay the same, or that might change. I'm leaning towards it staying the same though, because I don't. I think that's really cool. Because if you know some stuff about like the Knights Templar, or like one of the
yeah,
big like myths about them, or one of the big like things people would say about them is that after they got exiled and like burned at the stake in France, some of them fled. And a lot of people, or some people, said that they fled up to Switzerland and they established a banking system there. So I don't know. It's kind of like that concept of keeping like history alive, or keeping like these like secret hidden organizations alive through this type of stuff.
yeah.
But again, that is something to be seen in the future. Yeah, they're still around, and like their key concepts are still gonna stay the same though. So yeah, we'll see them in the future for sure.
Next one will be Yore Catalan Gasper, here where they say the magic slash making monsters is set in, like a generalist overview of those.
So now we're getting into cognition, the noosphere, the material and the immaterial. and how does it actually work, or like what is the premise of it, and how are things made? Well, it's all about how
Like,
strongly you hold something as your conviction, your willpower. It's all tied to that. If people believe in the boogeyman is real. Like, and if enough people have that fear, then that is a real thing. That at least that's how like I roughly operate the magic system.
also, like, emotions do tie into it as well too. Besides, like, because I do remember like some of the monsters, like I forgot what they're called, where they essentially were just pure negative emotions, but stuff like that, since they're not a concept, they're more like incomplete. Is what you
Oh yeah,
describe
the
them.
dregs underneath
Yeah.
Philanthropa. Yeah, yeah, I remember those guys. Yeah, but yeah, it's all based off our human. Well, as I said, like our shared consciousness. It manifests these things, and like the people that can use magic slash cognition are people that can harness that and make it manifest. There's some people that are more attuned to it, some people that are more capable of channeling it, and that's how you get like the war witches. Later on, you get panzermenches and all this type of stuff, or like the Americans and how they use propaganda to hype up their troops. Like they're like, oh yeah, our battleships are stronger than panzermenches because a battleship is stronger than a tank. That's where that concept comes from. It's all about perception. It's all about belief, and that's the core element there. Same thing with like entities and creatures and aberrations and abnormalities. They come from this collective consciousness that we all share through the noosphere and all that type of stuff. Do you remember anything that I might be missing out here or that I might have told you in the
There's
past?
the things like that would pop up where there's red and blue cognition. I'm not sure that's still a thing though
Oh
anymore.
yeah,
Where
that is still a thing. Yeah,
yeah,
red is unrefined. Red is the color of blood honey. Blue is artificial. Blue is the stuff that we can produce in a lab. That's why when you see creatures like the artificial deity Wodan or Woden, his energy is completely blue because he's artificial. The cognition that's going through him is artificial. When you see like creatures that have like red going through them, that is pure cognition. Um,
like it's natural
it's natural. It's
cognition.
just raw. It's unrefined.
It's also too. It's like the reason why was it some characters have red eyes as well too. If I
Wow, well, that
right?
gets into like the red bones. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that's because like your body is saturated with the thing. You're
yeah. Like
not
that's why they
they're not going to
think
have
of like
artificial cognition in them, man.
yeah.
It's red because of that.
That's why I think of characters like the people might not know this character like they might see this character like Debbie, for example, where her eyes are red, so her skeleton to be red because she's saturated with
Or
that
just look at the
stuff.
vampires. All of their eyes are red.
Yeah, so they all have like blood red skeletons because they're filled with so much
Yeah,
cognition.
they have
And
blood roots. Yeah, their bones are red.
yeah,
That would be the case. That would entirely be the case with them.
which you
Yeah,
see, whereas you see like Panzer mentions their eyes are blue because they were
they're
artificial
artificial.
creatures.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're artificial creatures, man. They're still people.
Well, they're kind of like stretching the definition of being people with some of them.
Yeah, that's cruel for them. They're still human. They're just super soldiers. That's all they are. But yeah, again, this is something that I have to get into the nitty gritty of it and actually write a proper answer.
I feel a lot of the monster stuff too that ties more to like Alan Tropa because a lot of the monsters they did write about take place in Alan Tropa as well.
Yes, that
Yeah.
is the case, but I do have like a whole dossier now on a whole different little side setting that I'm doing that covers these things in a lot more detail. So that's something for the future too. It's the one set in the past with Signal and like an alternate
Yeah.
time branch, but that's a completely different thing. Something that I'll release at a later date. But yeah, let's go on to the next one.
Next one's from Random Dude. What's the best complete explanation of this, and where's the best place to start engaging? In is from everything I've seen, this is perfectly hit my kind of style. I wish to know more. It's trying to set the person asking about the master doc, essentially.
Like a master document. Yeah, what I also want to do is I also want to make little lore explanation videos to explain stuff to people too. So I'd say probably starting here would be a good place as well. Even this Q&A right now is also a good place to start because I think we've covered some general topics. Not into extensive detail, but I think we've covered some stuff.
Yeah, and
We've
also
covered
maybe
some
like people can't always essentially just look through the writing of your artwork because you'll include information on there until we start
Yeah,
piecing
but
things
like that's
together.
not. Yeah, that's the general stuff. Like I think in
Yeah,
general, like I said, I think people really want me to make like a central, like a big document or
yeah,
something
like
for them to go
essential,
over.
like
Yeah,
essentially a wiki,
yeah,
really.
that's what the people need it, and I agree,
Mm.
they do need it. They do.
Yeah,
As for the overall explanation of it, it is a world building project set in like a I don't know, like alternate history, diesel punk, fantasy. I don't know, urban punk.
I,
It's difficult to categorize it. At least for me, it's
it
difficult to categorize it.
branches to a lot of different genres,
Different
essentially.
genres, but like I don't know. I don't know if anyone here has ever seen like Heroescape or know what Heroescape
Uh,
is. But think Heroescape, but
Honestly,
with
would just
like
be that, yeah.
yeah, think Heroescape, but like with like a bigger story, and a more overarching scope, I guess. Yeah, think
Yeah.
Heroescape. That's the best way of putting it. But in a serious answer, it is like a mix between sci-fi, fantasy, alt history, and all these things. It's covering several historical time periods. Covers a lot of characters and their struggles and all that type of fun stuff. But yeah, that doesn't really do it too much justice. Sadly, it's another thing that I have to, get to writing down a little synopsis. I don't know. What do you think, Hunter?
Honestly, think it's just that you're just gonna have to make just one big document and just explain the main things, the same like the main ideas. Is the core parts of the set.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's that'll be it after that question. Next one will be Salt Mine. I would honestly want to know more about the American Millennium and its expansion. I think they aren't or haven't been touched in a while.
the American Millennium. Yeah, that one's a fun one. Basically, the United States has taken over the world. This one takes place after the current time we have in 1925. This is a timeline where the Americans have decided to launch the Global Liberation Initiative. They've waged war and they've won against everyone. And now the world's under, I was going to say a one world government, but that's not true. There's a bunch of nations still, so it can't be a one world government. The Americans are not a dictatorship. They are a freedom loving democratic system still. They still have elections, they still have presidents, and they're fighting to protect our freedoms and rights. And they are moral and just, and we love them. They're great. I love them. I actually do. I think that's one of the more fun settings because we have the UN peacekeepers. I've always wanted to do stuff
Yeah,
with the UN.
the blue
Yeah,
helmets.
I love the corn syrup memes. I love the Antichrist memes. I don't love the Antichrist. I love the memes though. They're funny.
It's essentially just the heirs to the troll meme where he's just I hate the Antichrist, I hate the
It's
Antichrist.
basically that's the timeline of the American Millennium. It's the I hate the Antichrist timeline. That's why you have the divine worms coming in, bringing upon rapture and the end of times. And you have all this fun stuff, dystopia. I wanted to get more dystopian with the story, so yeah, we have this little niche now where I get to explore all these dystopian like little themes and everything with the UN, the blue helmets, corn syrup, selling out your parents, being a tool for the state, a cog in the machine. It's just great. I love them. Then you have like you got the carriers. Yeah, you got the
Yeah,
aircraft carriers, the successors of the battleships running around, and they're just a menace. They're great. Yeah,
they're like battleships but evil. Well,
well,
that's what I
yeah,
think.
yeah. I mean, I guess depending on your perspective, right? From my perspective, they're good guys. They're righteous. Sometimes it's just the American way. They're just righteous. I don't know.
It
They're
is the
great.
time America decided to be a bit, decided to pull a big prank on the
Yeah,
world.
they decided to
Oh,
dominate the world through democracy and liberty and freedom and education and civil rights and yeah, and all those good things. They're the best. I love them. But yeah, like I don't know. I guess like for a more serious answer, it's like yeah, the American Millennium, the Americans control the world. They have the UN under their thumb. They have this whole goal of like colonizing space. Ultimately, that's what they want to do. They want to just like start spreading out throughout the stars. Uh, but unfortunately for them, time is starting to run out because heaven's come knocking, and you got the worms descending. So it's going to be a race against time for them. Either they're going to consolidate the ground, or they're just going to, jettison off and leave the UN to deal with all this stuff. But we will see how the story develops, because I am going to touch upon them in the future for sure. But yeah, I hope that one answers that question in a satisfactory way. Well, let's move on to the next one.
This guy's Jared Mesa. Where they said, I don't know the factions to ask about, so I think it's just where it would be best for them to see like the different factions. And
That's a tough one. Again, this is one of those ones which would be taken care of by like a document or something. There's a bunch of factions. Yeah, that one is a tough one.
see, probably for that would probably like list all like I won't say the character sheets to get in their respective factions for organization.
Yeah, for listing them, yeah. For right now, there's no like good concise method. Probably like browsing DeviantArt might be like the best place to go if you want to see them organized.
Organized,
yeah, probably there. But for now, it's just probably just browsing DeviantArt for the moment, and having a look around is honestly the best advice I can give until I find a better way of doing things.
But that the next guy would be Bingus the Blue 55. What's the difference between magic and cognition? Also, how's technology able to keep up with either? We kind of answered the first half, where essentially magic is cognition.
It's the exact same thing. There is no difference. Magic
like cognition is just the proper name for magic.
Yeah, it'd be the proper name for it. Yeah, magic would just be the layman's term, right? It's term for it. It's just really what the common folks call it. As to how technology has kept up with it, it's actually kept up with it pretty well. And anything in life, it's a technological arms race for dominance. Except now, instead of just having, offense and defense, now we have magic there too. So, it's a three-way thing now. To give a more concise answer and a more serious answer, in the setting, cognition has been declining as technology has started to take the forefront again in the world. So it's starting to decrease. So there's less people with like raw cognition potential. That's why you don't have that many war witches in the 1920s as to compare to in the past, like in the medieval times, where you probably would have more witches and you'd have more people capable of doing this type of stuff. Nowadays, like you have engineered super soldiers that can use cognition because it's become such a quantifiable resource.
Like essentially, also like cognition's come more infused with tech at this point.
It's not that it's become infused; it's more that it's become produced. It's something that we understand. It's not mad. I guess like the best way of describing it, right? It's like if something is so like different, right? It's so out there that we don't understand it. We could call it magic, right?
Yeah, but now it's like essentially the magic's gone. It's just another element of life now.
Yeah, they understand it, right? And they're able to produce it. And as I said, like it's fading from the world slowly. Like there's no more like natural blood honey in Mongolia anymore, and in like China and those areas, like the blood honey is like basically gone. There's probably still a few deposits, but by this point, we're going to the technological age. We're industrialized.
Essentially, that's also a big thing with the Americans, saying where they're kind of the big example that where they're very technologically heavy, and they cognition to them is just a resource.
It is just a resource, yeah. Like they understand it, They managed to we can make our own super soldiers, even though it doesn't work out. So we got to talk to the Germans to help us make the super soldiers. Yeah. But they get it, Will.
Yeah. They improved the German ones. Is what they essentially did.
Well, that's what they claim. But it's all just like a smokescreen to make you think they did. That's how they get you with the smokescreen. Again, this is a bigger topic, obviously.
It best describes it's almost like with technologies. Essentially, the magic of the world is dying as the world's becoming more real. So it's technological,
yeah. Because this ties back into cognition, right, and like the overarching like thought behind it, which is again, if you believe it, right? Yeah, sure, you can manifest bolts of lightning, but now we have guns. Why do you need to do that? Like that's silly, isn't it?
Yeah, even then, not everyone can manifest a bolt lightning in the first place
not
either.
Everyone could do it back then. So, again, technology, just like in our real life, in the real world,
the great equalizer.
Yeah, it's just the great equalizer for people. So, yeah, that's what's going on with cognition in the world. Well, magic and technology, or as the title says, Daemon X Core, a world of magic and machines, or was it machines and magic? I think it's magic and machines.
I think you're correct.
Yeah, I might have gotten my own title wrong. That'd be embarrassing.
I want to move on to the next guy.
Yeah. Let's move on to
next
the
guy
next
is Apparently, and they ask, did I miss where or what the Fleshlands are? Or they ask about
Ah,
the Fleshgate.
the
Eh,
Fleshgate. It's found in Southeast Asia. Well, not entirely there. It's found mainly within like I guess the tropical area of India, of the Indian
Yeah,
subcontinent, and it does spread out into some areas of Southeast Asia, as well as some of the western regions of like Pakistan, places like that. That's where you find it. That's where like the Fleshcape would be on a map. I do believe I have a map on it that does show
yeah,
where
you
it is.
do. Where it shows it kind of snakes out into
Yeah,
certain
yeah.
areas.
Honestly, it's not as detailed. I'll have to go into it and sculpt it a bit more. But yeah, you'll find it mainly in like the tropical areas of India because it's flesh. It's fleshy.
Yeah,
So it prefers the humidity. It prefers the temperate areas. It doesn't like being in the deserts or in like regions that are too inhospitable.
yeah.
That's why like when like at least when seeing the map of the flesh shape, it doesn't spread out into the ocean because it doesn't like the salt. The,
It's essentially like a big open wound for it.
yeah, it'd be very unpleasant for the flesh shape to move
It's
through
also
the
saying like
ocean.
it can't really go through the Himalayas because it's too
It would
cold for
struggle.
it.
Yeah, it would struggle. It would struggle. Probably go through a valley or something if there's enough valleys that it can dip into, right? But
Yeah.
yeah, it would struggle. But
I
yeah,
guess like one of the questions what the Fleshland scape is exactly.
what the
Yeah.
fleshscape is, it's an out of control biological entity that has grown and consumed the land and has now replaced the natural terrain with like fleshy growths. It's a hellish place. It's a disgusting place. It's a place you wouldn't want to live in. People have made lives near it and even within it. Those are the fleshscapers or the flesh sculptors, the fleshmancers. People have been able to live there, but it's definitely not something for the weak of
Like
heart or if you have like a weak stomach.
guess best comparison thing of all is the flood in a sense.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that'd be a good one. The flood or like the fleshy stuff in Dead Space, the
yeah,
corruption in
like
Dead Space.
yeah.
Think about that. Think about living there, and like think about like being barefoot in it for a while. That's what you should think
Be
about when you think about the flesh game.
very awful. And to be honest, the vampires do tie a lot into it as well.
Oh yeah, the
So
vampires do have like some story tied to it. That is where Attila Nos went to get his vampiric powers, and that is also where they got their fleshcape weapons, the living weapons from. They hyper compressed living organisms from the fleshcape into weapons, making them extremely dense and extremely lethal. And if they so sought to it, they could unleash the creature within as well, which is always fun, especially for people that have never seen a fleshcape monstrosity. That would be a pleasant experience, a very fun
it's to
experience.
be declared of like, for example, like a Roman soldier seeing an elephant for the first time, but 1,000 times worse.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much. Okay, well, let's move on to the next one.
Uh, Next,
Unless we're
I
missing anything on the
Reynaldo.
fleshcape.
No, I think it's about all for a general view of the Flashcape. Hey, but next is Reynaldo Nunes. I have a homebrew question. Are your factions based upon Enochian lore, or demons, or could a faction be made up of cryptids like Mothman, Jersey Devil, and Yay, but like full
Ah,
faction?
oh,
And
that's a fun question. When it comes to like homebrewing stuff, I say go wild. Your imagination's the limit here, like legitimately. Uh, I don't think anything's like off the table because again, you gotta remember, cognition is all based on belief and
yeah,
how strongly you believe in something. So cryptids, they're not just they're not just hearsay. They're not just myth. They're
like they're
real.
actual real things. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd say for that stuff, like for the Enochian lore, there is stuff that is based off like apocryphal texts and stuff like that. I guess like you look at like the worms and the divine host. You have like Enoch, their Metatron, and stuff
Yeah.
like that. You have humans ascending to become godlike in a sense. There is a lot of that stuff. There's the Sumerians and all this other like weird stuff going on as well. So yeah, like wherever you might want to draw inspiration from, I'd say go for it. Yeah, go on.
Also, like the question about like demons as well, how they are in the Sen. And
I haven't really explored demons too much at the moment. Surprisingly, you'd think I would have covered them already. I
well,
mean, I guess we're
good.
kind of touching on them when it comes to like the Mortality Knights.
Yeah, that's more their wheelhouse with demons. But
It is their
again,
wheelhouse because right now all we've seen is like just like very bestial creatures,
yeah, but
which would
they're
be
like
like
the
minor.
low
Yeah, they'd be like
demons, like
very minor. Yeah.
like animalistic
Very
ones,
animalistic.
essentially.
People can make pact with demons. That is a thing. The Mortality Lords have made pacts with devils and like other entities like that. So that is a concept in the setting. Uh, Again, this is something that has been like neglected to an extent, but it is something that I am looking forward to expanding upon when I touch on the mortality again in the near future, hopefully.
I guess the best way to think of demons though too in the sense they're not like just chaotic animals that really they're more like there's all kinds of talents. I think of more like if you're thinking D&D, they're like lawful evil though. That's why I think of the same
Ah,
like they have like
I,
rules to what they can and can't do.
well, I think that'd be more for like devils, to be honest,
Yeah,
because again, you gotta
yeah,
remember, like you have like the more like bestial ones, right? But even then,
yeah.
I think in the way that it's been described, and the way I say, like if I wasn't the one writing it, but I did write this, when you have like the Horsemen of Gomorrah, and then you have the Beast of Gomorrah,
Hmm.
it goes through a progression stage. So it's almost like when the entity is brought into the world in a very bestial form, an animalistic form. Again, it's very mindless. It follows the lead of the mortality. But if it gets too powerful, it gets too hungry, and it eats too many souls or whatever have
It
you,
gets out of control
it gets out of
essentially.
control. But ironically enough, as you were saying, they're more lawful, right? It gains a bit more of itself, right?
Yeah,
That's why,
it
like
becomes aware
it becomes more
essentially.
aware. Yeah, that's why when you have like the Beast of Gomorrah, it has like its more regal look, more arms, and all this type of stuff.
Soul starts to revert back to what it once was before
Yeah,
it got
pretty
dragged
much.
in.
Yeah,
And
yeah. So I think it's like more like they're lobotomized initially, and then once they start picking up steam, they get a little bit smarter, a little bit
yeah,
more
like they
dangerous, hard to control.
I guess also too with regards to demons and you kind of compare them to like the I'm blanking on the name now. The guy the guys the white like organic armor. I'm forgetting blank on their name.
The Divine Host, the
Yeah, the
worms.
divine host. Yeah, worms. Yeah, where like they technically would be related because divine hosts are angelic until they have completely like almost opposite design sort of look to them as well.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
yeah. That is the
what
thing. It is interesting
what
to
they
think about.
what the worms are like overtly monsters, but they're good. But the demons they try to do the whole like shiny outside, rotten on the inside
Well, I
deal.
think that's something that's interesting about the demons specifically is that they have their faces uncovered, but the worms have their
Yeah,
faces covered. That's also like a fun little thing to think about because, like, yeah, the worms actually don't have faces. They have the
that's
jaws out, but they don't really
yeah.
have their faces out. But the demons
Which
do.
I guess also shows a bit of, like vanity towards the demons as well.
Well, I mean, I
He's
think it's easier to like talk to someone when you have eyes. I
yeah,
mean,
like it
those
helps
are
them like be more manipulative.
yeah, in
Yeah,
theory. Obviously, these guys are really ugly at the moment, but I imagine when they're more full, probably less
yeah,
like monstrous looking in a sense.
yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to another one.
No, near the renegade, they say waiter, waiter, warlord dumps to the Rylanders and vampires.
The vampires and the Rylanders. The vampires and the Rylanders. I love the Rylanders and I love the vampires. I have a lot of fun with them because they're very cool. As to for the lore on them, like where do you even start with like the Rylanders?
I guess like they are made of like multiple factions. Essentially, they're not necessarily one cohesive one necessarily.
Well, yeah, they're like the French. They have like little factions within the overarching culture group, I guess you could call it. You have the
Yeah,
Swordsweld, you have the Eisenkrieger, you have them, but you also have the Grey Army, and the Grey Army's fun because they're the guys that are in exile. But Kaiser Muller,
they
Muller,
they basically are a mercenary army essentially. Is what you think in the
their mother
um
base.
yeah. An army without a nation
They
is
are
what
they,
they are.
they are an army without nation. That's essentially what they are, and they're really fun. And we're going to see them in the future. They're going to be besieging Alantropa. That's going to be something to look forward to. The Ryland Reich. As to for them, what I foresee for them in the future, they're definitely going to be involved. I mean, they're already involved with the Franks and their civil war, but they're going to be involved in the east, fighting the Kybertar quite a bit. There's going to be some heavy fighting with them. So next time I draw them, they're probably going to be paired with the Kybertar. You have stuff going on with those guys over there. And the Swordswell, they'll also be around, but I think the pairing for them is going to be the Americans. Gonna have some covert ops fighting between them in the city of Kazil, the free city of Kazil, far out in the east, but in Heaven's Curse. It's gonna be fun. As to for right now, they're probably like the second most powerful faction in the setting, behind the Americans. It depends if you consider Alantropa one of the factions. So I don't think it is considered a faction though, because they have factions within the city state.
Alan Troll is more like basically like a country with a bunch of factions within it, is what you
Yeah,
think of
yeah.
it.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would not. I mean, they're very advanced, but like I think in terms of just sheer military power, the Rhineland is the second strongest at the moment. I guess if we don't consider the Kybertar, I guess the Kybertar would be the second strongest actually. Now that I think about it.
Well, kind of
Uh,
that's maybe just like sheer numbers what they
yeah, yeah, but
have.
sure numbers. Yeah, they're the second strongest. So, yeah, I guess we could put the Rhinelands down at the third place, or maybe
Like second to
fourth
third.
place, maybe after the
Yeah.
Americans again. Yeah, I think the Americans might just take up the top four positions actually, then Kybertar, then
Yeah.
Rhineland. No, that's a bit bad. But, the Americans are just that strong, damn it. Can't help but talking about them and glazing them. Even not right now when I'm supposed to be talking about the Rhineland.
They're number one, and although 250 Americans are also reason the sentence the way it is as well too, in a sense.
Yeah,
And
the Americans have their fingers in all the pies. And they have it in the Rhineland one too, because they're also trying to manipulate who's going to become the next Kaiser. They're playing the long game there. They're like saying like, oh yeah, we got this guy who was related to this guy here, and he's related by blood, and he has a claim to the throne. So we're going to instate him. And then the Rhinelanders are like, wait, what? The Americans intervening in our politics? What the heck?
that ain't fair.
That ain't good. But then the Americans go, no, 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 Ryland, we're gonna give you weapons. So calm down. Calm down.
And everyone was happy after
Everyone was
that.
happy, yeah. Everyone was quite content with this trade deal.
I guess also about that with the vampires as well.
With the vampires, ancient people, aren't they? The vampires, you can trace them back all the way to like the 300? No, they'd be even before the 300s ADs. They'd be, I guess Attila Nos would be somewhere like around like probably 200 AD, running
Like
around
he's
there.
very like old.
He would be very old. He'd be very old, if not old. Yeah, he'd be like around 200 AD. Specifically because, like, unlike the Attila of like our time, right? He comes around the time when the crisis of the third century is happening. So he comes in a very politically unstable time for the empire, the Mitraic Empire, and he just smashes it.
He
And
came the worst time for them.
he, that worst time, perfect time for him because all he wanted was vengeance. He just wanted to demolish those guys for what they did to him. What did they do to him? No one knows at the moment. The only guy that knew was Attila, but they definitely messed him up enough for him to go to the Flesh Cape and to take the blood of a living god and become a vampire. So he definitely had an axe to grind for sure against the Matrayans.
I guess they mentioned vampires is that they're essentially divided into like multiple like tiers of vampires. We have Nos and Hit,
Oh yeah,
the ones he
talking
started,
about
the
the
ones they
vampires. Yeah.
started, so far and so forth.
So yeah, it's working off a generational system where like the vampires sired by Attila Nos, they're basically perfect. They don't have weaknesses to like the sun or any traditional like vampiric weakness. They completely lack. The third generation, or wait a minute, they would be the first generation, right? Because if Attila sires them, they're the first
Yeah.
generation. And then the generation like that, like Elena
the
or
second-
Dracula would sire, they'd be second generation.
Yeah.
So second generation would be like people like Estragon and Ulrich, where they have some weaknesses, it's minor
they're
stuff.
like Dracula, where like for example the sun, they won't be killed by the sun, but it would probably like weaken them a bit.
It would weaken them. It would annoy them, and
Yeah.
and they have that. They don't rely on blood for their powers, but they can drink the blood. But they don't rely on it. Where like first generation vampires don't need the blood at all. Attila doesn't need the blood either. But these guys, they do need a bit of it. It's not like super important. It's not the end of the world if they don't drink the blood.
But they go a while.
They'll be able to go a while. They'll be fine. But that's when you get into the third generation and the fourth generation, which are more weak, more susceptible to like the traditional vampire weaknesses that people can imagine, and also to use their powers to the full extent. They need blood. Fourth generation needs a constant supply of blood because otherwise they're just useless.
They also like the fourth generation vampire, even then they're so degraded, they might as well be close to like a ghoul, essentially.
Pretty much. Yeah, they might as well be ghouls, to be honest. They really suck. Pun not intended. But yeah, you have that. And for like 1,000 years, over 1,000 years, I think, actually, they were fairly all right with humans. They got along. The vampires helped out a lot fighting back the Gore Knights on like the edge of Heaven's Curse. Which, if we had a map right here, we can like divide the Ural Mountains over there in like eastern Russia. Once you cross the Grove Mountains, that's when you get into Heaven's Curse. That's where the Gore Knights are. That's when a bunch of like abominations exist or existed.
Old world monsters,
Old world
essentially.
monsters, like all these horrifying things. And like the Doom Knights helped out a lot to secure that area and keep it safe. They would wage wars against like the invading like Magnolians and other factions that would come in.
They were the good guys, more or less, at that point in
They were
time.
peacekeepers. I think would be the best way of putting it,
Yeah.
right? They were like
Yeah.
peacekeepers, Saying
But they
good
kept
guys
things
is a little
stable.
bit too general,
Yeah, like they kept things stable.
Yeah, they were being policed basically, and the world police there. They were allowing humanity to flourish essentially. But then you had people like Estragon who are just assholes.
Like he ruined everything.
Yeah, he basically ruined everything because he was like, oh yeah, us vampires, we're better. Humanity should be enslaved. And until it was like, nah, man, that's not a good idea. But like,
And he
Estragon
didn't
didn't
listen.
Yeah, he did not listen. And that's how you get the vampire wars. And that's how you get the end of the vampires. Because by the end of it, all the vampires have been exterminated. Obviously,
Save for like
there's
a tiny like handful, really.
just two.
Yeah.
There's just two.
Yeah.
It's just Cry Maria and like Crowsteel. That's it.
And Crowsteel was weird, like he was in another like dimension essentially for a while, so he might as well have been gone.
Yeah.
And,
Well, Cry Maria was like stuck in a coffin for like I don't know, like over 500 years.
She was just taking a nap.
Yeah, she was taking a nap, and then she woke up, and now she's in the Gulch, fighting demonic knights, and being like, "Oh my God, my life is misery and it's pain." I guess that's the short and simple of the vampires. They had it good until Estragon decided that they had it too good.
They had a sweet ride for up to the end.
Estragon was like, "Yeah, we gotta end this. We all have to die now, I guess." Good job, Estragon. You get a gold star for being smart.
Screw it. But next question up is from Void Mech Hunting Game. Name, what's up with the fungal creatures in Chords spines? How do they work? Are there different types?
Fungal creatures? I thought it was like
fungal cultures. Yeah, like I misread that. My apologies.
So my voice is going a little bit. I'm not used to going off like this for so long. But to explain that, since the cord, again, it's very literal. It's the spinal cord. It's organic. So there's a fungal infection that grows in it, and it needs to be cleaned. And you need you need antifungal sprays and all this stuff to clean it up. Otherwise, it'll overtake the system and it'll rot and it will die. So it needs frequent maintenance. This is not a problem for like earlier, like semi-connected cords because they're still very bony. There's not much there, so it's fairly safe.
It's it's just organic where they can rot.
Yeah, basically the rot became an actual thing to take into consideration. So stuff like the flatbread or the storm phantom, you don't have to worry about those ones. Those ones will be fine. But things like the F-15 Victory Eagle,
real complicated
stuff that have more like integrated spinal systems. Yeah, you do have to worry about them. But yeah, it's essentially just a fungal infection that the cords get, and it has to be treated. Otherwise, the spine dies, and the cord is essentially inoperable until it's replaced.
Yeah, like it's useless till it gets a new one.
It is useless. I do realize that this bit of lore here, this bit of fluff, is tied to like a whole other concept. Where I remember when I wrote it, it was like this creature, this being came out of it. It was like a cyst.
Yeah,
and
I remember it's a very old.
It's like a year or so old, but like that is interesting. I am going to do something with that because I find that like interesting in terms of the concept. It's like, oh yeah, there's like a creature that grew out of it. What is this? Could it be that it's a Nephilim? Yeah, it probably is a Nephilim, and that's probably not good.
I guess that's gonna be some probably later on. We're gonna explain Nephilim, given they have a whole bit.
That's for sure, yeah. But like again, I think that would be more for like general lore videos, just going over these actual like big factions, overviews, and all that type of stuff. But for right now, yes, fungal infection, bad. For your health, get that checked. For your cord's health, get that checked.
Probably for yourself too.
For yourself. If you have a fungal infection, get that checked. That's not good. Is there more to that one, or?
That's about all. Well, next question should be Mr. Moo 100, and very general question: what is your world about? Well,
what is the world about? That is a very general question. It's about the struggle of mankind to overcome its inner demons.
I mean,
No, but I mean, obviously that's a bit of a joke answer, but it's sort of like hmm. I guess like the way I've like said it in the past, I think I've said this to you in the past. I see it as a sandbox where I
Yeah.
throw in like cool ideas that I find interesting and I make like something out of it.
Well,
Uh,
best way to say it too is like the world itself is sandbox, but then get out in trouble that gets more like character stories essentially. I mean,
the
where
characters,
out
right?
in
But
trouble.
I think they mean in general though. Like obviously the
Yeah,
sandbox, but you know, I guess if like to try to get like a serious answer out of it, it's like going over like history and like alt history and concepts like that. Like
yeah,
I quite enjoy. I've always enjoyed exploring worlds. Like some of my favorite stories of all times have been like stories that have like really in-depth settings. It's explored and you get invested in the world.
yeah,
And I guess like what the world is about is like again it's a world project for like people to explore and be able to be invested in and have a look around and be like, oh, that's cool. I want to know more about that. Like I want people to go like that. I want people to be like, I want to know more about this because that's what I feel when I read a really good story that really like engrosses me in the world. I go, oh, I want more of that. Give me more. But yeah, that'd be my answer for that.
next one is, well, I can't actually read the type they use here either as Xenocordia, the Ophidian Empire and maybe the Yellow Blooded Empire. I heard ask about those guys. Nice.
The Yellow-Blooded Kingdom? Or wait, can
Uh,
you go over that again, please?
the Ophidian Empire and maybe the
Ophidians, yeah.
Yellow. Yeah,
The Ophidians. The stand-in for the Turks, the Ottomans in the timeline. That's what the Ophidians are. They're a conquering power in the Middle East. They're dragon worshippers. They love the concept of reaching apotheosis through ascending to becoming a dragon. That's their deal. They're very cool. They're very fun. I like them. I keep saying that about all the groups, though. I like them all. It's true. I do like them all. But yeah, they're very successful. But much like in our own world with the Ottomans, they fail to innovate. They fail to keep up with the times. The pressure they put on the European powers, or in this case, the European powers, leads to the discovery of other alternative trade routes, advancing technology, and all this other type of stuff. And the Ottomans slash Ophidians, I guess, they just fail to keep up with the times. They fail to innovate. They have an elite janissary corps that, just like in our world, are complete, trash at like accepting that they're old hats. They want to stay in the
they
same way. They want to do things the old-fashioned way.
they
But like,
don't
come
realize there
on,
has been, so it's like they're not with the times
they gotta
anymore.
get with the times. They gotta like get, they gotta be like, you gotta evolve. You gotta adapt. And they refuse to. Yeah, they
Modernize.
refuse to do
Yeah.
that. They become like the sick old man of Europa, and they collapse, and they end up having a succession crisis, a succession war.
Yeah,
Uh,
because like the Emperor essentially had too many errors
yeah, too
in
many
a
years.
page.
Obviously, like again, this is taking a page out of our real world history. And then the Ottomans, like one thing that would be done, it would be like the guy that was like next in line for the throne. He would have his brothers killed to avoid like this
Yeah,
crisis of succession and all this stuff, disputes. But yeah, this guy didn't do that. He left his sons to live. He was like, yeah, I'm not gonna kill my sons. That stuff's kind of messed up. I'm not gonna do that. I regretted doing that to my brothers. His generosity backfired horribly though, because yeah, everything fractured, everything just splintered. But then again, everything was gonna splinter anyway. So who knows?
it
Maybe that was
basically
the
it
right
was gonna
decision.
happen at some point. I so might as well just happen now.
Yeah, I might as well just do it now. Um, but yeah, that's they have the succession crisis, and then you get the Baroque and all that fun stuff. We'll be seeing more of them, of the actual proper Ophidiums in the future, because they're going to be touched upon during the Vampire Wars. In the actual, like, written bits of the Vampire War, they are mentioned there because they are participants in it. So we're going to be seeing them in the future. At their height, even, not even in their decline. So that's going to be fun. As for the Yellow-Blooded Kingdoms, as I said earlier, they're a faction that sorely needs to be touched upon again, and I will do that in the future. Hopefully, it won't be too far off in the future, but we will see. I will touch upon them again, though.
I think that's all for that question. Next
That
one
is
is
for
from
this.
Zerge. Nope. That was that you're gonna say?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
said
yeah,
that is. It's all good.
yeah. Next one is from Zerge, America's thaumaturge experts. What are those guys? Yes.
What are those guys?
I'm not
Hmm.
sure about that one.
I'm not
That's
sure
something,
about that one either. Oh man, I feel like that might be like ancient fluff that even I've forgotten at this point. Which, if that's the case, like, damn, that's brutal. That's brutal. I've forgotten about it. I'll have to have a look around, and I'll have to have I'll have to see and try to find what's that reference to. It probably is something that I've written, but I just don't remember
Yeah.
it. I've written so much stuff. That'll be left
What's the,
open. Big
yeah,
question, Maya.
we'll come back to that some other time.
Some other
And
day.
next one, Starving Goon. What's the deal with the Schwarzwald Institute? See a bunch of them in love with what I've seen, but don't quite get the whole picture.
Sourcewell, they're crazy. They're crazy. Well, that doesn't fully describe them. They're insane. Yeah, I think that's better. But the
Yeah.
first one's fun. Again, they're fun. They're fun little guys. They're they're basically very radical in their beliefs of like being Aesirs. They're descendants of like the Norse gods and all this type of stuff. They're extremely radical in their beliefs of all that stuff. They believe they're preparing for the great, Ragnarok for Fimbulwinter. And like the Jotun or the Kyronfar, they got this belief system going on. They go off to the east and explore mysticism from the Yellow Princes and all this type of stuff. Native Buddhism from like the regions and all that stuff. They explore all these types of like occultic traditions. They believe in like Hollow Earth and like all this type of wacky stuff. They got cool units. I like designing them because they're very cool, very edgy. They got monsters. They made like Woden, the artificial deity. They made these big ass like monsters that eat people. Yeah, they're fun. They're very cool.
They did a bit of trolling in Eastern Europe. Is what
Oh yeah,
happened.
they've done like battle royales in Eastern Europe to test who's worthy of becoming an acolyte of the Black Sun. They also want to overthrow the Ryland government eventually and install their own like puppet state over there while they like cement their control in Heaven's Curse. They got all these things going on. Like I said, they're insane. They're crazy guys.
And
They're crazy.
their leader is Cobra Commander.
Yeah, their leader's
Essentially, he's a
basically
fuck.
Cobra Commander. He's cool.
Next question. And Colonel Clary, other factions in the Gulch. Like, is there like other groups in the Gulch?
Other groups in the Gulch. Well, let's go over the ones we have and we've seen. We
Yeah,
have the
we have the Mortality. We also Rattlers. As
Rattlers.
well.
We have the Companions of Saint Leo. We got the Crytek. We got them. Well, Cryptek. We got Cryptek. We got Sonata Industries down there. There's also the Yakuza like gangs. They're down there. We also gotta get the Mexican gangs as well. They're gonna be
Yeah,
down
like
there as
actual
well.
like proper cartels down there.
I don't know if we're gonna have Italian mobsters. We might have Sicilians. Who knows? We might
Well,
get them.
there are like Italian monsters, similar. Like those guys are like they're a bit more up top, essentially compared to the Gulch. I
Maybe, but
remember.
there might be Sicilians down there. We'll see. We'll see what they do down there. We
Yeah,
have the Gourd as well, which has not been mentioned in a long time, but the Gourd is going to be very relevant, especially
yeah,
with later stuff in the Mortali War within the Gulch, because the Gourd is a free state down there. It's a free little like zone settlement where not prisoners, but like people that are enslaved by corporations can go there for refuge.
yeah.
And they're completely independent, and the ministry just allows it. The ministry's like, okay, that's a safe zone. We're not gonna mess with you guys. You guys can do whatever you want there.
They're almost like an independent little state, really, down there.
Yeah, yeah, they're independent, but sadly for them, they get a fleshcape infestation down there that destroys them completely. And then that's when we get the Mortali's riding fleshcape dinosaurs. It's gonna be cool. But yeah, I think that one does it for the Gulch
Yeah.
factions for right now.
Fun Police asks, how many pieces did Child break up into? How many of them are batshit insane?
It broke into a lot of pieces. Well, again, I do remember at least this much from the old like lore for the Yellow Princes. After the King in Yellow died, the whole dynasty fractured. Everyone was vying for power, so it's definitely going to be more than like at least three. There are going to be more than three kingdoms. We're gonna have at least 16 kingdoms. That's just like a number throwing out there, but like it is gonna be a hefty number. It is gonna be a significant.
A lot. It basically
Yeah.
just be a whole mess in China.
It's gonna be a whole mess. China's gonna be like a complete war zone, warlord period time. It's gonna be a complete disaster. That's gonna be fun. It's gonna be great. We're gonna have a bunch of like interesting and creepy designs. That is a story for another time. Once I
I guess
actually get across to doing it.
Assume the fall of their question, having a batch insane. Assume all of them.
Yeah, assume all of them. That is a safe bet. A very safe bet.
Next guy is just called Kang. Yeah, someone calling you robot. I have no idea where to start. We gauge it because they don't know where it starts. It's kind of confused, but it all looks so interesting. I guess saying that they were Master Doc again, but I guess best place for them to look would be on DeviantArt, right? For I think it's more organized as of now.
Oh yeah, because right there it's just it's just artwork, right? It's just, but yeah, right there it's just the artwork. But I guess, like I said, it wouldn't be too bad to start here either, because I think we've gone over quite a bit of things.
Yeah.
Obviously in a very messy way, but I think this is I don't know. I think it'd be a good way of like at least getting introduced to some of the stuff.
Yeah.
I'll get around to doing a master post or some sort of like some way of centralizing this stuff. I have to get around to that. Like that is like the number one requested thing. That is
Yeah.
the number one requested thing. So I'll get around to that. Let's.
Next up will be Molden. Can we get a time on this back at your crazy world, please? Yeah, it's same answer as before.
Yeah, same answer. I do want to do that. Like I said, I'm thinking of maybe doing like a less detailed one, not like the vampire one or the Kyronfar one, where
More
it's like
main
just a general
world events.
Yeah, just general points. I'll place them in chronological order leading up to 1925 because that's like the cutoff date right now.
Yeah.
So that's what I'll do.
Next one is Arc Zero. I'd like to see more of the French of the two different factions. Really reminds me of the France and Vichy France. And yeah, so they're gonna get more of those guys.
Oh,
in
absolutely.
The future.
Yeah, the French Civil War ain't over yet. Not only are we going to be looking forward to what's going to happen inside the blast zone of Luthen, but we're also going to be like, I'm going to be showcasing some of the stuff before that. Because, I think some of the fighting in southern France is going to be fun to cover.
Yeah.
Between the Penitent Legion and the Mithric Loyalists and all that type of stuff. It'll be fun. It'll be cool. So, yeah, 100%. There's going to be more Mithric and the Republican / Penitent France stuff in the future. Well, Frankish stuff in the future.
Next one is one Ver 2 Trump official. So what the American and main energy source?
What is the main energy source for the Americans? Well, this is like a bit of and the Euros. What is their main energy source? Well, for the Americans and Elantropa, they have the Daemon cores, which the titular Daemon X Core. The Daemon cores are like nuclear power. It's on crack. It's amazing. It's incredible, and it's a super lethal weapon too. That's why the Americans are very interested in getting their hands on Elantropa, because Elantropa is one of the only places that has an actual stable fusion Daemon core reactor still working and still in perfect condition. There's some of them like fragmented around like the old world, like Europa and like Africa and Asia. There's some pieces there. Only the Americans and Anatropa have like a full piece still intact.
Yeah.
As for like the Europeans in general, like it's basically like oil, coal power. That's what they're using at the moment.
Pretty much just what we have today.
Pretty much what we have today at the moment. So the only thing that's really unique is the Daemon core, which is just like it's just nuclear power but on crack.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that powers like a lot of the Americans, like more advanced weaponry. It's very good.
Next one is Frank Soup. Full timeline manufactured bottles in one place. Pretty as answer their doc will be made, but if you want like more organized place, DeviantArt would be the best, where it's just all collected in there.
Yeah, just for now. Like I said, like it ain't like it isn't the best, but it's the best for now. It's the best for now. I'll show my Patreon. The Patreon's also pretty good.
Show.
Yeah, I'll show it. The Patreon's also pretty good.
Next one, last one up for Twitter is Rocky. Difference between Kyronfar and Fleshgate.
The Fleshgate is like they're living fleshy abominations, while the Kyronfar are undead abominations that are fleshy at times too. Obviously, the more in-depth thing is that the Kyronfar are like a unified, like hive mind, like cybernetic, like zombie monstrosity faction that wants to take over the whole world and put everyone in this utopian dream, whatever the utopian dream might be. Well, the Fleshgate is just animalistic. It just wants to spread, but it's landlocked by the ocean, by the Himalayas, and like by other stuff around it. So it hasn't been able to spread, but it has done incursions in other areas by people taking out tendrils and getting infected and spreading it. So it has happened, but it's not very like coordinated. It's not a coordinated intelligence.
It's more like an animal
It's
essentially.
it is it is it's a yeah. It's just an animal.
Yeah, whereas
Uh,
the Kyronfar are like an actual like thinking evil faction
yeah.
essentially.
I
Yeah.
guess we'll move on to the Patreon ones next.
That question on Lucia Pachala, excuse me, mispronounced your name. As for the Q&A part, recently particularly interested about Neophyte program mentioned Kiss Resort. Seems like another way for Americans to create super soldier or post-human, but deal scarce for now for obvious reasons.
Yes, the neophytes. I did provide a short answer on the Patreon for this one. It was created by the Americans as a counter to cognition users in Europa and in Anatropa. They were like, okay, we need something to counter these guys. The way I wrote it in the Patreon response was, to think about it like a magnet, where like cognition users are positively charged, right? And us normal folks, we're negatively charged. So cognition users, they can affect us. They have an effect over us. But neophytes are positively charged to an extreme, so they're more like positive, right?
Basically,
Uh,
it's like they're repelling
they're
cognition.
repelling it essentially, yeah. But
Like,
not obviously that's a very simplistic way of putting it, since they don't just repel people, but they also like make cognition users uneasy. I guess if you want to think of it like a blank in 40k.
yeah, same idea where it's like they just a normal person can probably feel something's off about them, whereas a cognition user does not function around them as well.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
essentially,
And this is like further amplified by the mask they wear.
yeah.
It makes it even more like potent, the effect of it over like cognition users. For average folks, as you said, they'll feel uneasy and all that stuff. For cognition users, it's just like it's hell. It's living hell to deal with those guys. But there's
And
not many of them.
yeah, in fact, there's only like literally like in the single digits. Really,
I don't think it's single digits. I think maybe it's a dozen or so, but there's
yeah,
not that many of them left. There was just a very limited run, a very limited run program, but Kissinger is one of them.
yeah,
We
and
also
also
have
like
like
epsilon.
yeah,
Um,
Epsilon, Xi, Gamma, Sigma, and Omega.
yeah, like basically these are like fairly like very like special agents for the
Yeah, very
U.S. Like, I
special,
think.
extremely specialized for their missions. That was one of the schemes the Americans had to combat cognition users. But due to the way they're made, which is very hard and complex, they simply opted to not make any more of them because it's like, yeah, as good as they are at their job, you know,
The cost is
the
just too
cost is
high,
just too
really.
it's just too much. Yeah, yeah, we were just gonna seek alternative methods, which later gets you like the battleships and the Mars witches and
Yeah,
all this type of stuff instead. The wraiths, so there's other stuff that came in to fill in the gap left by the neophytes. Wow,
uh, I
our
think that
shortest
should be the
universe.
next question. Next one's from Brian Roberts.
Yeah,
Here's
yeah.
a question that I have for the Q&A is more about where your ideas come from and how they evolved over time.
Well, that one's also one that I answered in a shorter format on the Patreon. As I said, this all started way back when I was in middle school, high school. I had a bunch of ideas. I would listen to creepy pastas. I'd play video games that had like cool world building, like the Resistance series or Armored Core, things like that. And I'd get really invested in them. The main setting, it started off as just a city, and it didn't even have a name. It was just a city. Eventually, it became an trope. But DXC started off as fan fiction for Lobotomy Corp, Library
Yeah,
of Ruina. That's where it all started.
you can still
Uh,
see elements that too certain characters like Judith, for example, the
they don't know
big
who
one.
Judith is.
Well,
These
that's to
guys,
show the comic
they
form. She
have they
pops
have
up there.
to yeah they have to go read the comic for that. But yeah, like you have that the Ministry, very inspired by like Bian, or however you say the
Bien, yeah.
yeah, like that name. You have all this stuff. It's like it was very shameless. But
Mm,
over time, I believe I managed to like evolve it into its own thing.
yeah.
I kept adding elements of stuff that I was interested in, and I basically just branched it out completely. As I said, there's still some trace elements, especially in Nanotropa. There's still a lot of trace elements there. But the whole overarching world has now just become an infusion of all these concepts that I like and enjoy. And that's where you get everything. Like I thought it was cool, so I'm gonna make my own spin on it. That's pretty much how it went.
All right, next up is the Carlos Campos. I'm overall interested in the religions in which dominate the entire current because godlike entities do exist here. Mithra, Cathan god, Carthan god, the Black Sun, the Shore Soul Revealer, the Ophidian Dragon god, also mentioned Mahakala, Shesha, the Syrian gods, the moon god, to start shit out in trouble, and Wilhelm, he's halfway counts due to his artificial nature. Or the various pantheons are still around in the current year, and what games are they playing with Earth?
Well, again, I guess this ties into way back an hour ago now with the cognition. It's all based on
Hmm.
belief. So as long as there's people that believe in these things, there's going to be like some obscure deity, in the forest that it has an influence on that area. It all depends on the amount of people that are invested in it, that have like a sincere belief in their heart for it. Uh, the more believers you have, the stronger the presence is, essentially. That's how it works. As for like active like pantheons, the ones you named, well, the ones the commenter named, those are like the main players at the moment. Those are the big ones. I actually can't think of anyone that's missing from there, at least not at the moment. It's a very broad topic, and it's one that I do want to explore more. But yeah, like as long as people have belief in something, it can be manifested, and it will be manifested. We're working off like those types of rules with the noosphere, the collective human consciousness, and all that stuff, all that interesting, cool stuff. But again, I'll have to cover that more thoroughly in the future. So yeah, I believe that
That is all.
is all for these questions. That is all for them. We went for like an hour and like 30-ish minutes. That's impressive. That is impressive. I will now show my Patreon.
God.
I will show my commissions now. I have an ad read from NordVPN. Stay
No.
safe out there. Use NordVPN code DXE